Hey guys, welcome to another Wizards Lizard game development live stream. Wizards Lizard 2, sorry. We're going to catch you up on what I did during this week on the project, and then later in the episode we're going to get into creating some props and maybe some explosives that Matt has been creating some art for. So we will get into that. First of all, I'll just show off a little bit about what I've been working on. So I don't know if you remember last week I had a little bit of a tongue mechanic going on, and I've been kind of iterating on that and kind of creating the visual effects that I want for that. So this is what I've got so far. It's pretty fun. I ended up not using a line renderer. I tried a line renderer for his tongue, but that didn't actually work out that well. I found it really difficult for me to work with the material, because with a line renderer you have to give it a material to use instead of a sprite. What I ended up doing was basically just stretching a sprite render over the distance for his tongue for now, and so I think it actually works. And the line render actually seemed to be doing a very similar thing, with the exception of the line render you can kind of create segments. I don't know that like a hard segment, I want the tongue to kind of be one segment anyway because it's not really like jointed. Anyway, so we can take a look at that later, but that's one of the things I've been working on. As well as, let's go to the main scene, as well as some of the interactions with the tongue mechanic as well. So, oh, also these paintings I think are new. I put these paintings on the wall and the purple tapestry. That's pretty fun. One of the things you can do with the tongue is you can grapple with it, kind of like a grappling hook. So we have these little points on the walls here, or near the walls, where you can grapple to using the tongue. And so you could use that to get across a ledge or whatever at some point in the future when ledges exist or programmatically exist. So that's pretty fun. I really enjoyed working on that. That was actually one of the easier things to program. Something else you can do is you can pick up these little gold nuggets, which are actually just rocks. They're not really gold. You can pick it up and you can carry it around, and then you can spit it out. And you can pick another one, spit it out. And you can also kind of drop it in place if you wanted to. So you can kind of move these things around the world, either by picking them up and dropping them, or by spitting them, across some distance. And so the idea behind those things is that you could basically pick up all kinds of stuff and move it around the level. You could potentially put this rock on a pressure plate to activate a switch, or you can shoot them at enemies to do damage at some point. That doesn't quite work yet. And then the grappling hooks are fairly obvious gameplay implications. Pretty fun stuff. There was one more thing. The tongue can also act as like a boomerang, which lets you pick up objects, but I don't have any of those spawned in the level right now. So maybe we'll just do that real quick. Let's see. Along with the rocks, let's just put I think it's just called items max health. And hopefully now I'll have some of those to play with as well. So we got the rocks. There we go. Let's kill that slime. Ow. He attacked me. What a jerk. So you can also pick up items from afar, which is, sort of just like a convenience, but also, if there existed an item across a pit that you weren't able to move onto, you could pick it up with your tongue, perhaps. And we'll kill some slimes, because that's always fun. I also like that the way we've worked on the tongue mechanic so far is that when you're carrying something in your mouth, you can't headbutt anymore. So it leaves you a little vulnerable, because headbutting is the way you kill things, right? But when you have something in your mouth and you press headbutt, it spits it out. So it's kind of like your alternate attack. And eventually these things will do damage to enemies. Yeah, so that's what I've been working on this week, the first part of the week, and then, hope everybody had a happy 4th of July, and ready to get back to work. Let's check in with chat real quick. Let's see, catch up on chat. Comic-Con, I have been reading stuff about Comic-Con. I think that it's happening soonish. I don't know. Now that I'm in San Diego, I should probably go to that. Yeah, he's like a little Yoshi. Yeah, Matt has been busy with the graphics. So hey to Joe and hey to Ifman and Deadhand. Good to see you all here. So let's get on to some new graphics that Matt's made, and then we'll add some new stuff. So I'm going to go into my testing scene, which I call Geoff, and Matt has one too, but this one is mine. There are many like it. Anyways, right now I just have Raga in a blank room, so we're going to start building some new stuff. And we're going to start with taking a look at, so I made no prep for this stuff. Matt just checked in a bunch of images early this afternoon, so we're going to play with all the cool new stuff that he drew. So the new stuff is a bucket, so some of it is props. There's a chest, a blue and a brown one. There's also a crate and a crate with dynamite. And the jar is also new. And then these tables right here. So we're going to create some of these props, and then I'm kind of hoping that I'll be able to create an explosive version of the crate as well. But for now, we'll just like create a simple prop out of the, say the bucket first. That's always an easy one. So the first thing I have to do is set up the sprite. Because by default, the pixels per unit are 100, and we want 64. Because right now we have our sprite tiling system set up to be one tile per unit in Unity, and so since our tiles are 64 by 64, we want our game objects to also be scaled in that same way. So 64 pixels is 1 unit in our setup, and we're also going to have this be multiple sprites, just because that way we can easily slice these sprites the way we want to. This one actually doesn't have a lot of white space on it, so we could kind of leave it as is. Maybe I'll do that. So we're going to revert that and leave it as single, but keep it 64. We're going to keep the pivot point in the center for now. I think we actually might want the pivot point to be a little lower. We definitely want to keep it at 0.5 on the x-axis, and then we kind of want the pivot point of the sprite to be where it would rest inside the tile that it's on by default. So like 0.25, like that's kind of where like the middle of the bottom of the bucket would be ish, if you could see it. And we can always adjust that later if it doesn't look quite right, but that's what we're going to do for now. And then the first thing we do is just kind of take this sprite and bring it up here, and now we've got a sprite, or a bucket object that is just drawn. No collision, no nothing, just kind of exists. But first thing we want to do is kind of rename it bucket, and then we're going to want to add this custom component that I have called sprite depth, which really just takes the absolute y-axis of the bottom of the sprite and uses that as the ordering layer, so that in this top-down world, things that are higher are behind things that are lower. And so that's the component that does that. The other thing is we have these sorting layers where objects go, and so there's like things that are the floor, things that are flat objects like a rug or a picture or something that doesn't have any like kind of height to it, and then tall objects is kind of everything else that would be like you'll never want the bucket lower on the z-axis or whatever than like a rug. I've probably explained that before, but just because I'm doing it, we'll explain it again. Anyways, and so now we've got that working, and theoretically, you can now hide behind the bucket, right? And then when you're in front of the bucket, you're in front of it, and then you can like hide behind it. No Raga here. Nope. 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 Next thing we want to do is add a collider to it so that it creates collision in the world. We'll add a circle collider, and we're going to adjust this a little bit because it's way too big. If we were to play it, you could kind of like collide it from, that doesn't look that right. especially from the top. You know, like why can't I go closer to the bucket? So we want to bring that in a little bit. Circle colliders are interesting here. I don't know that they're always the best choice for something like this. Like they seem like an obvious choice for the bucket. So we'll see how this feels. I think if there's an elliptical collider, that would be better. I guess I could use a polygon collider. But you know, the problem is you can't. That's actually kind of about right. It's sort of where we would want that, maybe a little bit higher, yeah. Feels pretty good, you know. You can kind of get behind the bucket as you would expect. Get around the sides, you know. I like using circle colliders though because they don't really have like these hard edges where you can get caught, you know. Because Raga is a circle collider himself, and so you know the circles can kind of like move past each other pretty easily. You know, unless you hit it dead on, then you're going to stop. But if you kind of hit it like at just an angle, you're going to like kind of pop around the circle, which feels a lot better gameplay-wise, I think. Yeah, so there's a bucket. That was easy. That's kind of just the generic steps for producing a prop right now. It really just needs to exist in the world and have a collider. And then usually what I do is I take that and put it in our prefabs. So I have a folder for props. And we'll just grab this guy, toss him there. Oh, the other thing we want to do is you can also see here that the lighting is different. So for the bucket we want to set the material. We have a special material for lit sprites. And it's called sprites lit. And that way, like, you know, you'll see the bucket look dark by default. And then we'll revert that. In this scene, we have the lights turned all the way up, just because it's easier to see what's going on. Oops. And then we can get rid of this guy, since we already have that prefab. And then we can easily just see it in the game by, let's see, we have decorations. Right now, the grappling targets, we can just get rid of those for now. And have props bucket. Oops, wrong scene. We got to go back to our main scene. There it is. I can alphabet, I promise. There we go. Now we have our buckets, and so you can see they're lit by the lamps, and you can run into them. And you can't actually do any damage to them or anything yet. That's another step we can take, is make them destructible, which is also fun. Right now, though, things aren't leaving the world when they're destroyed, so we could easily work on that too. Let's go into the props, and we'll go into the bucket. I'll add the mortal component. So the mortal component is just a component that I wrote that has keeps track of whether or not it's alive, the hit points that it has maximum, and then the current hit points, and then if it's currently immune to stuff. It's like a Boolean flag that can be toggled on and off. But we can put this on the props layer for collision, so that the player can collide with it, hopefully. And that should probably be it. Oh, we probably want to take the hit points down to 1, just because, you know, a bucket with 3 hit points is too crazy. Let's see if let's go into the mortal script, and let's see. We'll say that game object, or actually we'll say debug.log game object.name is dead. Oh, we can see if it's actually happening. I suspect that it probably isn't. Bucket clone is dead. Okay. Oh, I guess it's getting hit by the they're getting hit by the slimes. So anyways, yeah, they're dying, and we don't really have any polished effects right now for the death, so they kind of just, you know, one thing that we'd done in Wizards Lizard 1 was that by default, anything that died got kind of garbage collected out of the scene. But that actually isn't that great because it doesn't lend itself to polishing really easy, and it doesn't lend itself to the feeling of a more persistent world where things kind of, you know, you can't eliminate this bucket from existence. You could like break it into some pieces or, you know, something. And so we might either, you know, have some particle effects, or we might actually have like a separate sprite that would be damaged or something. One of those two things to actually kind of keep the ambiance, but still show that you've destroyed it. And maybe there could be something in the bucket. Who knows? Yeah, let's check in on chat. See how we're doing. The resolution is about. The resolution is going to be higher on the game overall. These sprites are actually smaller than the previous game so far, but I think Matt's art's gotten a lot better, so that's why they look good. Hey to Ryan and Kane Steven, thanks for joining. Always glad to see the Lost Cast love as well. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so the continuous level design seems to be a hit so far. I like it. It's things feel a little more interesting, and the world kind of feels a little more put together. Kind of is hard to get a sense for the overall feeling of the level with the room to room. And to answer Joe's question, yeah, when you walk by the lights, they turn on. Actually, I have this really cool gizmo. So this is one thing that I love about Unity is the debugging features that it has. You can basically draw lines using debug.line, and so it'll only show up when you're kind of in debugging mode. But essentially what these lights do is they ray trace to the player, and if they're within a certain radius, so like if you get too far, the line will go away. But if you're close enough and the light has line of sight on you, then it'll turn on. And this is something I've just been playing with as kind of like a polish step, just to kind of see what it would feel like if, like, as you moved around the house, the lights would, or as the levels, really, any level, not just house, but if the lights kind of turning on and off as you walked past them would feel kind of cool. And it doesn't feel exactly the way I want it to feel yet. One part is that the lights themselves need a little bit of work in terms of how they light the stuff, because I don't really love it quite yet. And then the second thing is there are some issues with the line of sight algorithm. Like in this room is a really good example because, you know, this guy is over a pit, but a pit is collidable to the character right now. And so because all the tiles exist on a single sprite tile layer, they all have the same collision group, and therefore walls and pits both block line of sight in terms of this algorithm. What I'm going to do at some point is move all of the pits to a separate layer. So I'll have a base layer, which is just like the floor and the walls, and then I'll have a collision layer. And then there'll be another collision layer that's just the pits. Oh, the cat's saying hi. There'll be another collision layer that's just the pits, and then those pits can then be collided against things independently. So I could say pits collide with the player, so you can't move over pits, but then they don't, you know, it doesn't collide with the tongue, because right now you can't use your tongue over a pit either. What, kitty? What do you want? I'm streaming. Come on. What a jerk. He's he has his toy back here somewhere he wants to play. Anyways, so I hope that answers the questions about that stuff. Asking about Fog of War, yeah, I think that the Fog of War would be really interesting to do as well. I like that. Joe Huckabee wants me to take a break and pet the cat, so let's see. Come here, cat. Come on. Oh, we're going to put you on TV. Here's Loki. Hi, Loki. Say hi. Hello. What? Okay. It's Cat Cast. Anyways. Okay, you can get down there. All right. Oh, no. You're... There we go. Okay. after that quick cat break, we'll get back into it. Alrighty, so that was the bucket. We made that. Let's work on some explosives. I want things to blow up. Matt made a ticket about explosions earlier, and now I can't get it out of my brain. So we're gonna make an explosive crate. Hopefully, unless I can't figure it out. In which case we won't. Then maybe I'll do it off stream, and then I'll tell you about it next week. Let's see. So on sprite editor, and this is a sprite where Matt has left a generous amount of blank space for some unknown reason. So we'll just slice the sprite down to a more reasonable size. I'm just kidding, Matt. If you're listening to this, your sprite sizes are great or something. Alright, so we've got our explosive crate, sprite, 64, multiple, etc., etc. We change the pivot point, and then we'll go back into our Geoff scene. And where's our images again? There it is. We'll drag that guy up there, and we'll call this TNT, because I feel like it. Again, we're going to add our depth component for all the reasons that we talked about before. And we're going to set the lit material. And then we're going to give it a, try a box collider with this guy, because he's more rectangular. And then we'll just kind of bring it in a little bit in the places that you would expect to collide with the box, perhaps. We could do this either manually or by setting these properties explicitly. I like to eyeball it first and just see how it feels, where the character might want to collide. You know, ideally, if you're thinking about this from a perspective, it would probably be something like this. It doesn't seem like it's that deep, but it generally kind of feels better if it's a little higher. So you can still get that feeling of being behind it, but the character doesn't completely disappear behind it either, I found. And so there we go. I only have gizmos on still. There we go. Gizmos are fun though, because you kind of see like exactly where the collision box is going to be. And so you still feel like you're behind the crate, and it doesn't really matter that, in real life you would probably be able to get a little closer maybe, or in the real physical world perhaps. So yeah, we got our TNT, and something else that I made a while ago, actually, I already have a prefab for, is an explosion. Yes. So the explosion just kind of sits there and explodes. Oh, and it hurts me too. It's already hazardous. Great. Well, so like a lot of the work is already done there. We just need to, A plus B equals dead Raga. I don't know if you can hear the cat scratching his scratching post now that I won't pay attention to him. He's like, I'm going to ruin your stream with cat scratching sounds, because that's what I do. Let's see. Oh, thanks for the kind words about the tongue mechanic. I spent probably most of the week working on that. And it is so far a lot of fun because it actually adds a lot of functional value to the gameplay. You can actually do things, you can affect the world, you can move things around, etc. So what we want to do here is we want to, we want to spawn this explosion when this thing dies, essentially. And so we can give this thing the mortal script again. And again, we'll give it 1 hit point because we want it to be, pretty easy to kill. And then we're going to add another component. Let's create a new one. This is always fun. I like creating new components. We're going to go create a new C# script, and we're going to call it explosive. So explosion is the script that controls how the explosion actually looks, the sounds, etc. Explosive is going to be the property of the box, which will then spawn an explosion on death. So we're going to open up this guy in our handy dandy Sublime Text. And we're going to get rid of this junk because we may not need it. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare a instance of the mortal component. And then on awake, we're going to say mortal is equal to get component mortal. And then we're going to hook a couple events. Mortal.on death, I think it's called. Let's just make sure that's the case. Mortal. Yes. On death. Great. Mortal on death plus equals on mortal death. And then we'll just need to create a function here to handle that. Private void on mortal death. I don't think that passes any parameters, if I remember correctly. No, it does not. Okay. And here we can just, for now, debug log died spawn explosion. And then we'll grab this guy, the TNT, and we'll add the component explosive to him. And another way to handle this actually would be to have like a more generic, you drop this type of thing when you die. And the thing that it drops could be an explosion maybe. I don't know. That's kind of overthinking it sometimes, trying to architect stuff too well. So I think for now what we're going to do is just do it simply. So we've got explosive there, so when we do kill this TNT barrel, which doesn't... So, no, nothing? Oh, I think it's on the wrong layer. The TNT is still on the default layer, so we need to make it a prop. Because Raga's headbutt attack. There we go. TNT is dead, died, spawn explosion. So the first step is usually just making sure that the hooks are working correctly, which they are. What's that thing doing there? And here's where we will spawn explosion. And we actually have this game object manager static class that kind of handles spawning things using a directory structure or like a string. And then you can also spawn it at your location. So we'll use this overridden spawn method. And it's just a global, so we can say game object manager dot instance dot spawn, and then we'll say this is misc explosion. And we can actually make this a parameter of this class so that there can be different kinds of explosions maybe, or like a list or an array of different explosions that could all come from the same source perhaps. And then we want to center it on this game object itself. And that should do it. Now it's exploding for all time. It's like the sun. It is perpetually exploding. But only after it's been killed. So, I took damage from the explosion. That's cool. So the obvious things here, one, we'd want to somehow get rid of the TNT. We'd want it to probably, I don't know, blow up into particles, or we could even leave like a husk of a TNT box there if we really wanted to, or like ashes or something. So we could really easily do this with destroy. So destroy game object, and that will remove it from the world completely, which will kind of work for our purposes right now. But I think that it's not the ultimate way that would be handled. And the next thing is that we want that explosion to not just loop over and over again. We want it to persist for a certain amount of time, and we want that time to sync up with the explosion animation. So probably going to do a little bit of work here on that. So let's go here, grab the explosion, and move this guy around for now. Oh, there it is. And let's see. This explosion already actually has some old audio stuff. I played around with making everything an audio source. That way that, and I still might do it at some point. I'm not completely not sold on doing it that way, but it seems like a lot of overhead to have each thing be its own audio source. But the benefit of that is that sounds happening farther away from the camera, which is actually attached, or the sound receiver, which is the camera. Audio listener is what they call it in Unity. It'll kind of automatically do the, how far away is the sound from you volume tweaks, I think. So that's the reason I did that way originally, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the best way to handle that, perhaps. Let's see. So what do I want to do here? I want to, we could take a look at the animation. There's a couple things I want to do. One is that I want to make sure that the hitbox of the explosion lines up with the frames of the animation. So right now, you can see the green circle here. So let me turn off gizmos for sounds. No. Audio source, no. There we go. You can see this green circle represents the collision area of this explosion. So that's really not cool because that's a really huge change. And so in the record mode of the animator, we can actually just change the size of this circle collider to be, a little better, a little less unforgiving. So we can start with like 0.3, and then the next frame we can move it up a little higher. I like to keep it a little bit inside the graphic. I almost never want, for hazardous stuff, for the hitbox to be outside of the actual graphics. In fact, you want it to be a little bit inside so that you have a little bit more wiggle room as the player, I think. And so I'm going to very quickly just kind of go through here and set that to be something reasonable for each of those frames, so you don't feel like you're getting cheap damage, as some people might say. Nobody likes cheap damage. And let's see. That one needs to come in a little bit. That one. This is where we can start kind of shrinking it down again as it kind of fades out. These frames are always kind of interesting to deal with, like how, we could disable the collider completely at a certain frame. And then there's 2 frames of completely done. So this is at 1 second. I don't think we need this frame. Delete that key. Yeah. So we already have a frame where it's completely empty, and so that would, we can make that radius 0.001. Then we can play it, and we can kind of watch the circle collider grow with the explosion, and then fade back down. And we can always tweak that later. But right now, so I guess this is like 12 samples over what? I guess it's 1 second, right? Yeah. Hopefully. Might need to be shorter than that. But what we can do is we can go into the explosion. No. Explosion component. There we go. And on start, I actually wrote this quite a while ago. Void start. And this is where we can say invoke. We'll call it go away. No. I want to call it destroy because I think that's already already a name of something. Call it remove, and we'll say private void remove here, and then we'll just say destroy game object, and then that'll be 1 second. Then we can actually, make this parameter. It's easy to work with. I like to, when I'm testing out parameters, I like to make them private by default because then it's easier to change them like globally. Because, oops, once you start making it public, then instances of that game object will have their own like cached version, and so if you start changing this default value, it won't get picked up because the prefabs already have their own overridden value for that. So let's take a look. No. Oh, there it goes. So I guess it actually doesn't take a second. It takes a little less time than that. That's a little better. Oh no. Unity has stopped working. That's not cool. That does not happen very often. I wonder if I crashed it. That would be kind of fun. Okay, so do we have our? Yep, we have our explosion still. So, hey, it even played the sound. Nice. Cool. So there's that. Now, once we've made those changes, I just zero these guys out, and then we can apply that to the prefab, and then we can actually delete this, and then we'll forget about it. And it blew up, and it did damage to me, and then it went away. So explosions are awesome. And then we can take our TNT and we can make it a, I guess we can make it an object. I don't know. You could call it a prop. I guess it's like a prop that explodes. Props is kind of like my generic bucket of random objects anyway. So we'll put that 0, 0, and everything else looks good. And delete. And then we can actually see it in the level if we want to. It actually was a little easier than I thought. I mean, obviously it's still some rough edges around that, but we can replace the bucket with TNT, and we'll see what it looks like. Oh my god. I can hear the sound effects too. Hopefully. Anyways, these are all sound effects that I ripped directly from AWL1. But it helps. It kind of makes things feel a little more finished. So we'll go back to scenes and main. Maybe we'll play with the music up just a little bit. You can kind of hear. Oh, there's TNT all over the place. Theoretically, I can make the. Oh. How did that slime die? I love that already in this game I can like come across a slime in a pool of blood and I don't know what happened. Like it died somehow. I'm not really sure. Oh, it ran into the TNT. I guess that's what happened. So we just saw it happen. Poor slime. I wonder if I can headbutt it into the... Yeah, nice. Headbutt its dead carcass around the level. Blowing up. That's unexpected. I didn't realize I could blow up boxes with the slime. That's kind of fun. Ow. I'm probably gonna die. Oh, I did. I died. Well, that was fun. Let's check in our work. Oh, we changed a lot of stuff. We're still kicking it old school as far as GIF Git tools go on the Windows box. So I'm using the built-in Git diff tool, which I don't love because it's really hard to audit your changes. I mean, maybe it's great for some people, but I personally don't like it at all. But it works in a pinch. A lot of these are just kind of meta changes, timestamps. Unity is very verbose. Some of this is just like the meta around these, like the bucket. We changed the sprite pixeling to 64 and all that other stuff. And we made some changes to the level data, and we added some classes or some components, deleted some stuff. There we go. Here's like the bulk of what we did. We added some stuff to explosion so that it gets removed after half a second. Oh, we can take out that line from Mortal though. We don't really need that. That was just debugging. Just to make sure stuff was working correctly. Anywho, everything else looks pretty good. Oh, some of these are also just the meta files for the graphics that Matt added, so that's fine. Let's say git commits, add bucket, prefab, and TNT, which explodes. Yeah. Good stuff there. Let's check your chat. Is your chair really see-through? Yes. Yeah, so 8 directions for the sprites has been interesting. It's a lot, twice as much work basically. The cooking show format. I don't know if it does left to right stereo panning, actually, Joe. It probably does. It does a lot of things, so it's... Oh, hey, Salmon Moose says it does. I should read a few lines of chat before I respond. The explosion will knock you back, and I can actually tweak that. The chair is not really see-through, actually. It's just that my webcam isn't super great, and also my green screen is kind of wrinkled. So it's hard to get the color to match correctly without it making other things transparent. Respect the tiger hat. Yeah, the tongue sounds are actually from the Minotaurs in the Wizard's Lizard 1. That's the sound they make when they throw things at you. Yes, explosions do need to be light sources, and the timing will probably change too. The sounds do a lot, yeah. I have thought about doing a different tween curve. It's something that I'm probably going to investigate for the tongue as a polish step. Yeah, I kind of want to zip out and then kind of have that. I guess it would be kind of like a sine wave almost, right? Yeah, the dead slimes do need some kind of a visual. Oh no, Matt added some stuff. Let's see what Matt did. So I don't get conflicts. No, that won't be fun. No. I wonder if Matt went through and removed all of the excess space. What do you guys think? I think he probably did. Maybe not. Nope. No, he did not. I don't know what he did then. I don't think he added anything else. Excuse me. I really need a second monitor for Twitch chat, I think, actually, or something like that, because it'd be nice to kind of see it as it rolls along, and I have to switch back and forth. Maybe I should invest in a second monitor. Let's make some more props with some of these things. I kind of want to play with these tables. These look kind of cool. So I always have to remember what I'm doing. So we need to set up sprites for sprite editor. I guess this one's fine. This one can be single. And then we can just change this to be like here-ish. So 0.5 and then 0.25. 0.25 seems to work out for most stuff at this perspective for whatever reason, the way the math's drawn it. Oh, we are not in the right scene. And we'll go back to the sprites. There we go. And we'll say small table with cloth. Small tablecloth. Depth. Circle collider is probably going to be a good choice for this thing as well. Well, it's kind of hard to see on the white, but that's okay. Maybe a little higher, like 0.38. Yeah, it feels about right. Maybe 12? Sure. What? Why is it, oh, it's not on the right sorting layer. It should be on the tall objects. That's right. There we go. So this is like an end table. This isn't like a dinner table. Otherwise, Raga would be giant. The other thing I've been doing with props is considering adding rigid bodies to them. Rigid body 2D. This is like the physics stuff that Unity has built in. Just there, I'm reducing the drag and the gravity. So gravity needs to be absolutely 0 in this scenario because it is not a 2D platformer, and so things do not fall down. The other thing is I want to interpolate the movement, the physical movement, and you can freeze the rotations, and I'll talk about that just in a second. But now once it's a physical body, I can knock it around, which is kind of fun. But because we're in this testing scene, it's just kind of like, it's like space, where if you put impulse on it, it's just going to keep going forever. Oh no. It's like the vast reaches of space. One thing you do is you can freeze the rotation on the z-axis, which is going to be this way. And so now you can just kind of like slide the table around. Choo. Bam. Oh no. I gotta catch it. Yeah. Oh no, I missed it. Now it's gone forever. The camera doesn't follow me in this in this scene, so yeah. But the other thing I've been playing with too is like giving these objects some mass. So if we were to give the table 100 mass and Raga has a mass, it's much harder for him to move it. You can see it doesn't start flying off into nowhere. It's also hard to just stop it. It's, a little physics simulation. Oh. The other thing we'd probably want to do with this kind of stuff is like give it a reasonable drag. So I could say like the linear drag is going to be like 110. I don't know. Just see what it feels like. Oh, it's way too. Well, actually, it's about right. Like if Raga's going to push this thing. It's probably heavy for him. He's a little guy. We can make it, maybe make it a little, you know, I don't know what the scale for this mass ought to be for now, but it's kind of fun. Could even be maybe a little less heavy, like let's say 25. I don't really need to keep restarting either. It's one of those things like, you know, old habits die hard. But it's a little easier to move now. But I could actually like tweak these. Oops. Tweak those in real time. So linear drag is more like, you know, 7. Maybe even like 5. That way there's like a little bit of slide to it. And kind of move it around. It's not super heavy. Maybe even change the mass down to like 10. No, it's a little too floaty. 15. A lot of this stuff is just kind of feel, right? Like, how does it feel to push this thing? This is actually one of the issues where, like, now the circle collider doesn't feel as good because it's kind of slippery. And it's really easy to just kind of, whoa, you know, move right past it. And it's not as important now that it's movable to make it so you can't get caught on the edges. You know, because you might be coming at this angle, or maybe more like this, and you want to push it, we just kind of slide right past it. I don't know, it's hard. So what do? We have 15 and 5, because these are going to revert now. 15 and 5. Felt kind of good. The other thing we can do is we can try out a box collider and see what that feels like. See if it feels a little better or not. The box collider is kind of nice because it's a little easier to get precise with how you want it to be, and also it's a little easier. You know, if you want to push this thing around, it's a little easier. But this is kind of one of the decisions that I'm thinking about. You know, is it more interesting to have this stuff movable, or and or destructible, or not movable and just destructible? Who knows? There's a lot of ways you could go with props. So, but for now we can just put that guy away. A small tablecloth. And 0 and delete it from here, or not. And we'll go back into the main scene. And I always like to try that out. Let's replace the TNT with the small tablecloth. And see what it looks like. Yay! Here's all the tables. You can move them around. You can sort of get them away from the wall. Yeah, look at that. Raga is going to arrange. He's an interior decorator now. Interior decorating with Raga. That's going to be the new game. Actually, I don't know if you guys have ever played Dream House for Commodore 64. It's a really, really old game, but it was super fun when I was a kid. And it was all about taking these different houses and decorating them. And there was one house that had like secret compartments and stuff, which I thought was awesome. Anywho. Yes, working master, not good. I actually do. I use master for like the source of truth, and then I have branches for experimental features and stuff like that. So, or like once we get on like an actual production schedule, then like each version will have a branch. But yeah, kickstarting a second monster starting now. There are a couple monsters, but not a lot. Oh, that's true. I could use a tablet or phone for chat. That way I could see it. I could set up my... I do actually have a nice Android tablet. Yeah. I saw a peek of the other scene with the music. Could you put in so I could see it? It looked cool. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess I already did. It's always kind of weird to be so delayed. Yeah, slidey edges. Yeah, I do like the gameplay that emerges from movable stuff. It's pretty cool. The knockback, you know. Oh, we were going to talk about the knockback from the explosion too. So in MISC, so all the hazardous stuff, the hazard component that I wrote has a knockback, has some knockback settings. And you can specify how fast and how far, no, sorry, how fast and how long a knockback exists. Although this is actually something that I was thinking about. It's really easy sometimes to tie your speed, the distance of something happening to the speed and the duration, right? Because if you have something moving at x speed over y duration, it's going to go so far. And when you mess with either the speed or the duration, that changes how far it's going to move. And I started having that problem with the tongue because the tongue originally, it has a similar thing going on where when you shoot it out, it has a speed at which it reaches its apex, which was audio on for a second. But it has a a speed at which it travels, and then it has, or it used to have a duration of how long it would take to reach that duration. But having those things coupled together creates a lot of headaches with trying to edit and get it to feel right. And so I changed it to be speed and distance. And so the duration is now a calculation essentially of how long does it take the tongue to move to location blah at speed whatever. And then you can change the distance and the speed independent of each other, and it feels a little better. Anyways, long story short, I'm probably gonna have to do that with the explosion too, because the explosion right now defines speed and duration. When it would be a little bit nicer for knockback to specify distance. But for now, what we can do is we can go into testing scene, and we'll put in, excuse me, put in a box of TNT, and we'll put the table right next to it, and we'll make the table immortal. One hit point. So the table. Oh, it wasn't close enough. Let's make sure it's close. Oops. That was not a knockback table, but we could probably fix that. It could be that we have to go into the physics settings and this crazy matrix of layers, and well, first let's figure out what the explosion actually is. It is on the default layer, so that is interesting. That probably means that we want to change that to so we have like player hazards, monster hazards. We probably want like global hazards, which we'll use for this guy, global hazards. And then in the project settings for physics 2D, we can have global hazards collide with a bunch of stuff, but let's first have them collide with nothing. You probably want them, the global hazards should collide with the player, with the monsters, with the props, and that's probably it for now. But it could be collectibles, anything, stuff that you want to get knocked around, like the rocks, the carryables. Maybe not things like grapple targets. Although that could be interesting. You know, you could create a puzzle where you have to like blow up a grapple target to shoot it across the room so that you can then grapple some. I don't know. Who knows? Seems like there should be implications there. That would be fun. No. Maybe the force of the explosion is not big enough. I think. Oh, I know why. Yeah, the explosion actually. I'll probably have to redo this. The explosion. Remember, we had this explosion created at the beginning of the segment, and that means I had actually created this explosion quite a while ago, and I didn't understand a lot about the physics portion of Unity, and so the knockback is actually kind of like a hack in the mobile script, which basically, you know, and in the case of the player, the knockback and the charge are the same thing. I may have talked about that when I was working on it, you know, several months ago, or I don't know, some amount of time ago. And so that's why there's no knockback from that. But what we could do, so the explosion, there's probably a way to do this. I know that Unity has like physics aspects where explosions can like move things around or something. And I know it works in 3D, pretty sure, but I don't know what it does in 2D. But the thing we could do in 2D is also hook the, let's see, I have an idea. In explosion, we would say, void on trigger enter 2D. Excuse me. And then this function gets passed a collider 2D object, which we'll call collider. And I'm going to actually have to look something up real quick. So on trigger enter 2D. And we want the scripting API, right? How do we get to that? Oh, collider 2D actually is what we want. So we have the attached rigid body, the bounds, the right. I thought there was like a normal, but I guess that's for the actual physical collisions, not the trigger collisions. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the way that triggers work is that they don't actually collide with things. They just raise an event so that you can handle it yourself. They don't actually have any physics implications. But we could just kind of fake it. You know, we could say like rigid body 2D body is equal to collider dot get components. And we'll say rigid body 2D. And then if body is not equal to null, then what we'll do is say body dot add force, I think. And then we can specify how much force, which is going to be a vector in the 2D world, vector 2. In this case, we'll do like, we'll move it to the right just to kind of get that working correctly, and then we can add other stuff later. And so we can use, or we also want to, you know, that's a normal, right? Moving to the right, we want to scale that up so that it has a certain amount of force going in both x and y axis. And then we want to use the, I think it's called force mode 2D dot impulse. And so impulse will apply that force right away. So it's basically applying an impulse to a rigid body, and then it's going to send it So then the flying. Hopefully. We'll see. I don't know. It may not work. I'll probably check the chat in a second, and then it'll be really easy. Whatever. Oops. Do it again. No? No? Nothing. Oh, I probably need to apply that. So the problem is that I'm working on this instance. When in doubt, debug log is your friend. Pushing collider.name. That's fine. So it should push it to the right. Pushing Raga. So it pushed Raga, it didn't push the table. Because the table is not a prop. Yes, that's exactly what I thought. Actually, let's just make this -1 for now. Although I don't think that the force is quite enough yet, maybe. There you go, push a little bit. So we made it a little bigger, like 20. Because the table is actually kind of heavy relative to Raga. But push a little bit, that's kind of fun. Let's try 50. When in doubt, make it a bunch bigger. There you go, set it kind of flying across the room a little bit. I guess that the explosions could be like really crazy. But anyways, I guess all that rambling, the point of some of that was that as I get more experience with Unity, I understand how their physics system works a little better, and so I'm starting to try and leverage that more instead of creating my own, physics interactions essentially with like knockback and stuff like that. We'll see though. It's a hard call to make because the Unity physics do a lot of things, and in certain cases, like in particular, like the dash or the headbutt mechanic, I want tight control over how far and the speed of that stuff. And so, like the tongue is another good example how the tongue mechanics don't exist other than collision. It doesn't really use the Unity physics stuff. Oh, someone was talking about sticking things to your tongue earlier, and it made me think of like Goat Simulator, which would be amazing, right? Like we could have a super hit game on our hands here if you can attach furniture to your tongue and then like drag it all over the level, and wacky things happen, right? Right? I thought so. Oh, let's see. So much chat. I love it. I love you guys. Yeah, table pushing simulator. Nice Android tablet. That phrase does not compute. Yeah. I actually like Android. I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm weird. How about the dark until licked? Nice daylight. Oh, that's kind of cool. So Raga's tongue is actually going to be the way that you interact with stuff in the game. Like for example, NPCs. Like when you want to talk to them, you lick them instead of pressing some other random interact button. So the tongue is going to have all kinds of cool uses. Hey, hello to Veneral. Thanks for stopping by. Veneral is cool. I've watched his stuff for a while. He made a game called. Wait, I'm gonna forget it. Anyways, it was a really cool HTML5 battle game. I think it was Treasure Arena was the name of the game. Anyways, very impressive HTML stuff out of Venreal. Fester's Quest. I haven't heard of that actually. Oh, the breadcrumbs. That's a good idea, Joe. I like that. Maybe you can only have a certain amount of lights on at a time. Otherwise, you'll overload the house and the circle will break and everything will go dark. I don't know. Yes, the tongue is sticky, actually. It has a grappling line hook action to um, the grappling targets that I have right now. Yeah, the lighting stuff needs some iteration for sure. I am still kind of learning how to work with the Unity lights in a way that I think makes them look the best. That's kind of tough. Um, you can use the debug draw line to draw force vectors. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. What is this? Critter. Oh no, page not found. I'm guessing that it's in this repo though. What was it supposed to be? Master asset scripts critter. So assets scripts critter. Hmm. This is for a 2D game, it looks like, right? Is this just like little things that run around and get, I guess, like critters like you would see in like Diablo or something? It looks like that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think HTML5 will always have a special place in my heart because I do like JavaScript and I do love web tech, but it's just the tooling. Tooling is not there. I mean, writing a game engine by hand in JavaScript, or even using one of the available ones that are really good, like Phaser or Impact or something like those are both good engines and they do a lot of stuff, but they don't get you as close to where you need to be with tools like Unity, unfortunately. Um, I mean, having deployed a game on Steam using WebTech, it's painfully obvious how hard it is to cobble together things like Node WebKit with whatever your engine is, with Greenworks. I mean, these are all cool pieces of software by passionate people, but you know, it's just there's a lot of holes, and because not a lot of people are using it, those holes don't get fixed. Uh, Other than the people that really care about them, which would be the developers using them probably. But yeah, I think that for us it kind of just came down to the fact that we wanted to be more productive, and we didn't really care about, especially on a platform like Steam, we don't really care about, open web tech in that specific scenario. And so that's kind of one of the reasons that we haven't had any security issues necessarily with web tech. But then again, we do a lot of like single player games where the security doesn't really matter as much. But yeah. Anywho, so what was I doing after between all that rambling? Oh, so we got the explosions that move the things around. Someone was asking about the tongue, and I guess maybe they joined later on. But I love the tongue so much that we're gonna go take another look at the grappling targets because they're so much fun. And back in scenes. Yeah, we can also talk about the lights too. There's the grappling tongue. Woo! Woo! And one of the things that needs to be done with the tongue so far, and I'll probably get to, I'm kind of avoiding the tongue thing. Can also pick up stuff, spit it out, or drop it. Maybe we could make the rocks hurt stuff. It'd be kind of fun to throw the rocks into the TNT barrels to be able to blow them up, I think. So that would make the rocks hazardous. The rocks are interesting, actually. The more I started playing with them, the more problems I found. Because the rocks will, they have this weird thing where physically you think that when you spit them out, they should go across pits, right? And I already talked about why the pits are collidable. I need to put those on a different layer. But the problem with the rocks is that, like, if you spit a rock, you'd kind of expect to be able to spit a rock across or shoot your tongue across a pit to either get something or trigger something. But the tongue is fine because it will just come back to the player, right? And so it'll look fine. But it's potential that the rock could stop in the middle of a pit, and then you've got this rock kind of floating somewhere where it shouldn't be, and it looks kind of weird. But how do you let the rock be spat over a pit to trigger something without the rock being able to stop somewhere in the middle of a pit just due to kind of the natural physics of the game? I don't know. I have not thought about that one quite enough to have an idea about how to fix that. Oh, line 107. Oh, debug draw line. That's right. I'm terrible. Like, I forgot the context of why I was looking at this file in the first place as soon as I started looking at it. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I like debug draw line. It's pretty cool. I was using it earlier to debug the light. Oh, sounds like we're talking about just kind of generic web request issues from domain to domain, cross-domain stuff. Yeah. Lots of good points by Veneral about, having control and how some things are really easy with a tool that you know really well. I still think that, like, the best way to make a game is with the stuff that's going to let you move the most quick. And if you're switching stacks, there's always going to be a learning curve. In this case, what I'm kind of hoping is that it's like, one step backward, two steps forward kind of deal. Where, yes, there's like this time in my Unity development where I don't know as much as I would with HTML5. I could, like, sit down and bang out an HTML5 game more quickly than I could with Unity. And hopefully that time is coming to a close pretty soon. But yeah, I think what I'm hoping is that, in the future I'm going to be really, if I'm as efficient with Unity as I was with my HTML5 tools, then I should be more productive overall. Yeah. Oh, don't decelerate the rocks when they're over pits. That's interesting. I guess what I could do is I could check the tile map and then disable the friction, the linear drag. So, like, right now, all of the deceleration is just happening due to to the linear drag. So on the rock itself, it has linear drag of 1, and so I guess that's actually a pretty interesting idea because there's a lot of stuff you could do that would be contextual, like if the rock was on ice. But then it could be something like excuse me. Yeah, that's getting way too complicated. Anyways, I like that idea. I will definitely have to think about that because that sounds like a perfect solution to that problem. I want to say I really appreciate all the chat today. This is great. Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm making mistakes so you don't have to. That's actually like the tagline of Lostcast a lot of times, right? Is that we'll tell you what we did wrong, and then you cannot do it later. Interesting about rewriting the game in all those different languages there, Salmon. It seems, you know, my thought at the beginning was that C# was the way to go with Unity, even though I knew JavaScript really, really well. But it also helped that I knew C# before I came to Unity, so I had a good reason for choosing it. Excuse me, as well as the fact that it kind of seems to be the premier language for Unity. I don't know anything about Boo, but I didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole because it seemed too new and different, too crazy. Whoa. But yeah. So I usually stop about an hour and a half so I can go eat dinner, which I will probably do because I'm hungry. But I will stick around and talk for a little bit longer till about 7:30. Probably not going to do any more. I guess I can make another prop while I'm yakking about random things as I do. So we got all those guys. We can take one of Matt's other things. What did he get here? So we got. I'm gonna mess with the chest. I like to see the chest. The chest perspective looks kind of weird to me. So let's see how it looks. And the jar maybe. Well, first we need to add the sprites. Let's get rid of those. Delete. And let's go multiple. This one looks like it has a lot of white space, or not white space, but transparent space. I think I already have a script that will drop things when things die. I don't know. I've done a lot of development and I've written a lot of code that isn't being used right this moment in some of the prefabs. But let's see. So depth. We'll put the depth thing on there, and then let's check in the chat real quick to see if there's anything I can answer or ramble about while I'm doing this. So, oh, Joe, thanks for the thanks for all the support. And I hope that we can move you to the dark side as well. Yeah, I agree with Veneral about the typing. That was actually one of the reasons I chose C# is because when I looked at the JavaScript version, Unity script, it really just looked like a really bastardized version of JavaScript. It's got the same underpinnings, and at that point, why not just use the statically typed language or the strongly typed language? Yeah, I mean, I love doing the stream. If you guys have any suggestions about stuff you want to see, I mean, a lot of it's going to be me developing this game, Wizards Lizard 2, which I should probably promote more, right? Like, that's why I'm doing this. Well, not the only reason I'm doing it, but one of the reasons is to promote the game and stuff. So, this is a Wizards Lizard 2, is a sequel to Wizards Lizard, our HTML5 game on Steam right now. And we're developing it, and we're going to launch a Kickstarter very soon. So you can go to wizardslizard.com, wizardslizard.com/2, which I will paste in the chat. Have a second webcam pointed at your cat. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll get. I actually have 3 cats. Three cats. You only got to see 1 cat today. Maybe next time we'll get another cat on camera, because that'll be fun. Let's make a circle collider for this guy really quick before we're done. something like that for now. I probably need to go back soon and start working on some of this, like, you know, technical debt essentially with with regards to lighting and stuff. I'm kind of moving very quickly from one, you know, get some lighting in there, see, you know, kind of get it working in some small fashion, and then move on to a different thing. So, some point soon, I'm going to need to kind of go back and fix a lot of the stuff. I really like the Fog of War idea, so I might have to steal that and do it, because that sounds like a lot of fun. And for the last thing we'll do, we'll just put this jar in the game so we can kind of see what it looks like. So this will be props jar, and we'll go back to Unity. I guess we need to go back to the main scene. There we go, yeah. Hey, the jar kind of goes well with the garden. The pictures don't really go well with the garden. The pictures are more for like a different tile set, like an interior tile set, which we can show off real quick. This one obviously needs some work as well, but you know, the paintings are a little bit more at home in this environment. Anyways, thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And you know, I'll stream again at 6 p.m. next week. And I'm also going to try and post some more GIFs and stuff of things that I'm working on throughout the week, so that it's not, you know, there's no radio silence between streams. So. Oh, I guess we did do a postmortem on the Crypt Run Kickstarter. Yeah. Oh man, this is blast from the past. Good stuff. Wow, this is pretty thorough. I think, yeah, cool stuff. We'll probably do another one of these once the next Kickstarter gets done, because there's a lot of thought that's going into it so far, and hopefully it'll be something that people can learn from as well. Anyways, yeah, take it easy, everybody. Have a great night, and I will see you next time.